Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a saviour, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Plz. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks, you're tuning in to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Welcome to the show. Technical problems abound, lol, 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 and all that. Now, just 1 second while I turn the speakers down. No unprofessionalism here. Ha! Now we go. We shall not actually have some echo back this time. At least that's the plan. Right, okay. So I've now banged mine off the desk. The mic's fallen backwards. The computer reset. As the Murlocs corrupted this week, and yeah, everything's going really well. Where's a fork? I want to stab myself in the eye and then eat it. Preferably with something tasty on top. Maybe like ketchup or some kind of barbecue sauce. Maybe I can eat it with tortillas. A tasty idea. Get it? Idea? God, no. My name's TotalBiscuit. This is Blue Plz. You're listening to WoW Radio and I'm annoyed. Annoyed. Seriously. First is Blizzard trying to stop people from listening to my show. Now even the god of my computer, the god of the great computers, or whoever he may be, maybe he's called, I don't know, HAL 9000. Yes, I did just say 9,000! That's never gonna get old. It really isn't. Okay, maybe it will get old, but I'm going to enforce it on you anyway, because I'm a cruel, cruel person, and I have a very black and evil soul. So, I'm angry and annoyed and so forth. I have many topics to cover this week, including the last part of the epic giveaway. Last week on Blue Plz, you were given the chance to win a variety of interesting prizes, including EU Collector's Editions of the Burning Crusade, a couple of WoW TCG starter decks, and a turtle mount, and some WoW Radio Comedy CD Limited Edition. Very nice, very nice. Last week you were given 3 questions. 3! That is not 2, but 3! You must answer me these questions 3, and after that you must answer me 2 more questions, which are coming up on this show. So, listen up. You have until next week's show, of course, to answer, and the winners will be announced on next week's show. So, listen up. Do not send any answers until you have all 5. If you don't send in all 5, you will be disqualified, like the failure that you are. The email address for the contest is epicgiveaway@gmail.com. That is epicgiveaway@gmail.com. Yes, I did just say sound bites make me funnier. Right, let's get on with it. Rant time. I've got loads of content to come up, including Nubcake News and rap in the forums. And again, Ask the Murloc disappeared into the twisting nether that is my hard drive. Annoyingly enough, I tried to load it up after that hard drive reset, and what happened? This file is corrupt. Damn it! This is what happens when you have something open, and then your computer goes, meow. You just hear this spin down sound, and you think, oh good lord, that hasn't happened in months. Why now? Why now? I blame Blizzard. Entirely Blizzard. It's obviously Blizzard's fault. Everything's Blizzard's fault these days. So, rant time, okay. Coming up in the rest of the show, we have a whole bunch of content, and it will be awesome, including level 60 to 70. Was it long enough? Was the content good enough? Post 70. Is the content good enough? What are you going to be doing post 70? Why? And speculations on future content in the expansion. And also, PvP. Now with the introduction of the new arenas, is it more than just a metagame? We shall see. However, rant time. And first things first. Do you know of a quote? Now becoming around the infamous quote, and it says, "But how do you kill that which has no life?" Of course, taken from Make Love Not Warcraft, the South Park episode. Now, why do I say that? Why do I bring this quote out right now? The idea of World of Warcraft and its huge expansion into the public domain, and the rather backwards opinions that some people seem to have about it as a hobby and as a pastime, and even something which you can perhaps base your life around. And why not, after all? Many people base their lives around their hobbies. I mean, let's have a look at just what we're actually talking about here. Life. Let's talk about life. Everyone has one, as far as I'm aware. If they didn't, and they're still talking to me, I'd be highly surprised, and a little bit scared. I would get a fire axe and embed it into their skull, and perhaps attempt to sever their head at the neck. Because apparently that is the only way to kill them. For when there is no more room in hell, the noobs will walk the earth. So, life. Life is a beautiful thing, filled with absolute complete garbage. Really. You can turn the corner and people will have it in for you, one way or the other. They may not have even met or spoken to you before ever, but they will have it in for you. They'll have preconceived notions. People preconceived notions just by looking at you. It's really quite stunning. As far as I was aware, everyone was in fact born differently. It's a crazy thought. Not only in their appearance, but in the way that they actually act, and their likes and dislikes. So, what point am I trying to make here? World of Warcraft now has over 8 million subscribers. That's a lot of subscribers. That is a very, very big multinational thing. I mean, you've always had crazes. You know, things have gone worldwide and have been a temporary craze, if you will. And perhaps died down to relative obscurity. I would like to take as a primary example, yo-yos. Popular for a grand total of 4 months in the UK and then fading back into obscurity. And during that time, all these amazing stars came to the fore and said, "Oh, this is the yo-yo star that we didn't know about before. He can do tricks with 50 yo-yos tied around his nose. It's amazing. He's now a celebrity," and then they disappear. And it goes back into relative obscurity. The funny thing about crazes, as compared to, say, something that is more stable, that hangs around for a lot longer, that has some degree of permanence in our world, is that they're never considered to be sad as such. They're never accused of being, you know, it is the standard accusation. You're into yo-yos, whatever. You're into yo-yos in the time of the yo-yo craze. You were not the kind of person that had no life. You were one of the popular kids, and it was all understandable. It's like, it's a craze, it's awesome, it's brilliant, I love it. I should get into this too. I want to be popular. Yeah. For about 4 months until it disappears into relative obscurity. Now, at no point during that is it ever really accused of being particularly sad. You get famous people adopting it, people mention it on the TV and radio, and suddenly it's a big thing. And yet you get something as large as World of Warcraft that's been going on for, what, 2 years? Over 2 years? Well, let's look at the people who play it, ranging all the way from, literally, 5 to 6-year-olds, all the way through to the elderly. Businessmen, students, housewives, anyone you can possibly think of. Give me a stereotype, give me a cultural group, and I will find you people that play World of Warcraft within it. And yet, World of Warcraft, even within its own community, this is the really hilarious thing about it all. Outside of the Warcraft community, we've got people who will take one look at MMOs and they will go insane. It's like, oh my god, the evil, addictive, demon-spawned hell thing that is World of Warcraft, taking away the lives of our children, our husbands, our girlfriends, boyfriends, mothers, fathers, cousins, former roommate, which makes us absolutely nothing, which is what you're about to become. Thank you, I'll be here all week, trying to be it. Now, why is World of Warcraft considered to be sad, a waste of time? Well, in comparison to another hobby, other hobbies that could be considered admirable, perhaps the pursuit of football. Let's take the pursuit of football. Whether it be soccer, as in the proper football, or American football, also known as rugby for pansies in £300 worth of body armour. What's the difference? What is the difference? Well, I would say the fear of technology is definitely involved in there. You've got the fear of technology. People don't really understand the way computers work. I mean, let's take an example. A few days ago, I was working in my store, and this must be an 8-year-old came in, and he picked up a copy of World of Warcraft off the shelf, and his father was with him. And we took it to the counter, and I explained to him, are you sure you wish to purchase this? This is an online-only title that requires a subscription. And he turned around to me, at least the father turned around to me, like I just claimed to set his house on fire. Like, what? Subscription for a game? What's going on there? And I explained to him, well, this amount of servers, and I was like, I don't really understand what you're talking about. So I went back to layman's terms. I stopped talking about server clusters and 24/7 online permanence in your characters and went, well, there's a lot of computers over in France, and you know how you save a game on a memory card on your PlayStation? Well, this is like the same thing, only instead of buying a memory card, you pay $8.99 a month for the privilege of someone else doing it for you. And here's the thing, you can't finish the game. So, say you beat Grand Theft Auto in 20 hours. You can't beat World of Warcraft, it's a wonderful thing. Wonderful. Take that $8.99 a month and consider how many games you could crack through in that time. How many games can you complete? How many instances of Crash Bandicoot can you get through in that time for that money? And his response was, well, I don't really understand this technology thing, blah, 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 blah. So I ended up selling his son Guild Wars just to spite him. But anyway, he didn't understand. Nor did he actually sound like he wanted to understand. And this was a fairly intelligent guy, by the looks of it. He looked like a fairly intelligent guy. He had his briefcase, it was shiny, it was probably more expensive than absolutely everything I own put together. In fact, it was probably had more capacity than my bedroom. But yet, it's a case of, well, I don't really understand, nor do I actually want to understand. That is kind of sad in my opinion, because we're looking at a worldwide phenomenon. And a phenomenon isn't a craze. A phenomenon is something that explodes and that carries on going and establishes itself as a degree of permanence. It's like saying the internet at the time was a phenomenon. EverQuest was a phenomenon at the time, because nothing had really been done like that before, and it still maintains a degree of permanence, in the same way that World of Warcraft will continue to maintain a degree of permanence for a very long time. It will get smaller, like everything always does, but it will maintain a degree of permanence. Now, why else? The whole idea of, you'd have thought that after the release of, say, movies like The Lord of the Rings, and more recently the atrociously poor, horribly derived and plagiaristic Eragon, would have pushed people back in the direction of thinking that fantasy and, high fantasy, if anything, the idea of elves, dwarves, dragons, and swordplay is an acceptable way of viewing things. It's an acceptable form of entertainment. Always has been. Tolkien being one of our greatest authors. Whether you like Tolkien or not, you cannot deny his literary prowess. And yet, no. We're still going back to the old idea of Dungeons and Dragons in your mother's basement with 5 very overweight, sweaty people who can't get a job or a girlfriend. And it's funny because that's not the way it works anymore. But people would prefer to cling to this stereotype. Now, we ask ourselves why. The answer must be that people are in fact fundamentally stupid. And yeah, I know, this is not really news. This shouldn't be news to anybody. The idea of, for them, of spending that amount of time in front of a computer for something you're not getting paid for is, to them, abnormal. And World of Warcraft is a time sink. We know this. There is a lot of time to be spent in World of Warcraft because there's a lot to do. But then again, it's the same as spending your time with any other hobby. You've got the same people accusing others of, oh my god, you have no life. Yes, in an Italian style. It's like kind of Mario accusing people of having no life. Oh my god, you have no life. And then saying, yeah, I just spent the last 8 hours in front of the TV watching 24. Nothing wrong with 24. It's all good. Nothing wrong with watching TV at all, but the idea of hypocrisy being rife in our current society as regards to World of Warcraft, gaming in general. You know, we have yet more stupidity, perhaps, in Germany, attempting to ban every game left, right, and centre because some guys named themselves after Final Fantasy characters and went and shot up a school. We've still got Columbine in people's heads, thinking that Doom was what trained these people to kill. Sorry, if Doom was what trained these people to kill, then I'm surprised they managed to hit anything. I mean, good Lord in heaven. It's ridiculous, it really is. It's this complete lack of understanding, and even despite the fact that World of Warcraft has reached a global scale, to the fact that pretty much anyone on any given street in any major nation in the world, there's probably somebody that plays WoW. You can walk down the street and you'll pass people that play WoW. You won't know it. They look like completely normal people. That's because they are completely normal people. But this is their hobby. This is what they do in their life. And people say, well, why do you base... can you even base your life around this video games? Well, of course you can. You can base your life around anything. It's simply about picking a goal and then choosing to pursue it instead of dossing around and doing nothing. You know what? I would rather I spent my time dedicating myself to World of Warcraft, WoW Radio, and developing my character, becoming part of an interesting community of varied and mostly intelligent people. There are some people who I'd like to push into a pit of fire, but that's just the way of the world. Compared to someone who dosses around doing absolutely nothing and makes nothing of their life. And what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be on welfare. I want to sit around and I'll impregnate some 14-year-old and then end up with 8 stupid kids. Congratulations, you win the prize of absolute fail in the world. You're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. I'll play a little bit of Machine Eye Supremacy. This is Through the Looking Glass, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the wonders of Arena PvP. Is it just a metagame? Or is it something more? This is TotalBiscuit. This is Machine Eye Supremacy Through the Looking Glass. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com. Oh, yes, indeed. Listen to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. The sounds of Machine Eye Supremacy Through the Looking Glass. Okay. Now, I've got a few shout-outs to make before I continue with the next topic. I'd first like to give a very special plug to our friends over at the MOG Army. Massively online gamer, that's mogarmy.net. Fellow producers of podcasts covering a wide variety of topics. Broaching sometimes on World of Warcraft, but mostly covering general gaming and, of course, massively multiplayer online stuff. And they have a great bunch of people over at their forums. I would highly recommend you check out their podcasts. That's mogarmy.net. I'd also like to thank everyone who dug Blue Plz. That's, of course, through the shows page. We have dig links. What is dig? Dig is a promotional tool. If you dig us, we get higher on the scoreboard, and we get to air our shows to more people. This is a very good thing indeed. If you want to dig us and you haven't already, go to wcradio.com/shows.php and click the dig buttons. Blue Plz is currently sitting on a rather nice 320. However, we want more, and I know we can do it, so let's go there. Go and dig it. Go and register if you haven't already. It took 20 seconds, as I demonstrated live on air last show. It wins. It wins. It is fantastic. You should go and do it if you like our shows. Also, one more shout-out must, of course, go out to the Eternal Corpse Council on my home server of Mazrigo, who just downed Prince Malchazar. Very, very well done. Anyone else that wants shout-outs, they will be reserved for the 5 minutes at the end of the show, damn it. So be patient. Be patient indeed. Now, before I go on, I must introduce our new meme for the day. I was in Netherstorm, and I acquired a rather interesting quest. It was acquirable in Area 52, and the Sunbonner's Apprentice was there, requiring acquire the staff of a certain Archmage. And for some reason, this particular thing has caught on in our guild. It's become a big thing. Originated also from Kiki Jiki, the one and only, in his guild, the Shatrath Emporium, or Defiance Brotherhood, which is made entirely of Win, and I have been told that their RP is in fact there, but not elsewhere. So yes, I present to you the one and only...
the image of Archmage Vargoth.
Yes, the image of Archmage Vargoth. A myriad of uses. What is the image of Archmage Vargoth? That is the question. What is the image of Archmage Vargoth? That is not a contest question, however, I'm about to introduce the last two contest questions, and they are both in fact to do with the image of Archmage Vargoth. Yes, indeed.
The image of Archmage Vargoth.
Yes, the image of Archmage Vargoth. So, those of you tracking the epic giveaway wanting to get involved in the contest, the three questions last week were: what spell do shamans hate? That was from Rap in the Forums. What colour were the pantaloons? That's the colour, not the quality. And, of course, which drawer did Metzen keep the Outland in? There are two more questions to be emailed to epicgiveaway@gmail.com. Get all five answers, and email them to epicgiveaway@gmail.com. The fourth question for our epic giveaway is: what is the colour of Archmage Vargoth's beard? What is the colour of Archmage Vargoth's beard? You have to listen to the rest of the show to find out what the last question's going to be. But to repeat that, what is the colour of Archmage Vargoth's beard? If you don't already know, I'd suggest you go and find yourself an...
the image of Archmage Vargoth.
Yes, find yourself an image of Archmage Vargoth. An image of Archmage Vargoth, in fact. Right, let's get on topic, damn it. Okay. Now, PvP has always been a bit of a... not so much a gripe fest for me. I admit it, I rolled on a PvP server on day one, and I have not considered rolling a serious character on another realm, despite the fact... despite the fact that ganking is annoying. That was very rude of me. I do apologise for that. Let me start that sentence again. Despite the fact that ganking is very, very annoying, and it can delay your quests, particularly outside instance portals. You're aiming to get on time for your AQ40 instance, you get ganked, and suddenly you lose DKP for being late. Ah! The frustration, the fear, the jealousy, and the stabbing. So, ganking is just a part of life on a PvP server. You do... eventually to accept it. As long as you're not really doing anything specific, you don't really mind. You just get up there and say, "Hi, he ganked me, very good, I'm going to go back and corpse camp him now." Or I'll get my entire guild to do it. I'll surround him with the image of Archmage Vargoth entirely, just for humiliation. And I'll corpse camp him. You can do that. Now, the problem is, that isn't really an objective to the game. I mean, you've got your three objectives. You've got your PvP, your PvE, and your RP, yeah? RP is user-created content, yeah? That really doesn't get old. It doesn't end, but you need to be a specific kind of person to enjoy it. You need to be on a specific server to enjoy it, because otherwise it's just not going to happen, okay? So, then you've got your PvE, yeah? For the past 2 years, PvE has been pretty much the endgame of World of Warcraft, yeah? You've been able to do certain things with PvP, i.e. acquire gear and all that kind of thing, but the challenge, the real challenge, and most of the content has been put into PvE. Endgame raiding. Okay? And what of the new content? What is going on with the Outland exactly? Well, let's break it down. To start with, what was there pre-60 and, of course, pre-70 for PvP in the original game? What do we got? World PvP. Now, World PvP, it was a complete misnomer. Why? Because it has no real objective. It's not like you're forcing back territory, or stealing territory, or doing anything like that. It's nowhere near as good as Realm vs. Realm on Dark Age of Camelot. Now, not to say that I like Dark Age of Camelot, but I can appreciate a good game mechanic when I see it. So yeah, Realm vs. Realm, pretty good. PvP, World PvP in World of Warcraft, absolutely pointless. There's really, really no objective there whatsoever. Blizzard saw that and decided, well, we'll try and expand it with World PvP objectives. So what do we get? 4 remote towers, or was it 3? Was it 4? 3? Can't recall. Might be 3. Remote towers in the Eastern Plaguelands. This shows how much I have not bothered to actually go anywhere near them. And what else did we have? Oh, let's see. Oh yes, Silithist. The race for collecting bits of sand. Building sand castles in Silithis for the glory of the Horde. Fantastic. The spice must flow and all that jazz. So, there's your world PvP as such. Now, what about your battlegrounds? You've got 3 battlegrounds. You had 2, originally, when battlegrounds were first released. You had Alterat Valley, the largest, most pointless zone I've ever seen in my life. Unfortunately, they restricted the scope of it. They made it smaller, which is a good thing because it's not very pleasant getting completely lost in there, and I freely admit that I did when I first went in. And of course we had Warsong Gulch, which is your classic capture the flag, which I admit is a hell of a lot of fun and still is. It's very well designed, it's base versus base, it's what all successful team-based capture the flag games were based upon, pardon my pun. It's great. And then of course you had Arathi Basin. Arathi Basin, it's a resource capture. It's pretty much along the lines of Battlefield. Battlefield 1942. That's what you want. Yeah? And it worked well. Again, it's a good battleground. It's a lot of fun. But what does it do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There is no single effect of perhaps winning, maybe if your side wins 2/3 of the Arathi Basin games for the day, something happens. No, it doesn't actually happen. It's honor grinding, actually, at this point. That's really all it is. If you're doing it for any particular purpose other than your own sole enjoyment, which is temporary and fleeting, I might add. Sorry to rain on your parade. It's grinding for gear. And that is, to some degree, okay. I mean, isn't that all that you're really dealing with as regards to PvE, raid content? It's grinding for gear, surely. So, well, that's what we had, yeah? We had your mythical world PvP, and then you had Battlegrounds, yeah? And the honor system. Now, what are we looking at post-expansion? We were promised a few things. We were promised a new battleground, which we received, the Eye of the Storm, which I will come on to in just a little bit. We received world PvP objectives in every zone, yeah? And they were relatively varied. Some of them are good, some of them aren't. And then we've got, of course, the arena system and the capturable town. Hala! So, what's what? What's good, what isn't, what worked, what didn't? Let's have a look at the first PvP objective that we're looking at. We're looking at the Hellfire Peninsula. And you have 3 capturable areas which you basically stand around on, capture, and everyone gets a 5% buff. Until you lose one of them, of course. That's a 5% damage buff. Zone-wide, this includes instances. And as soon as you lose one of them, bye-bye buff. Oh my god, let's go and get it again. And you can also, and now this is actually quite a good thing, when you capture them, you can do this quest in order to earn Marks of Thrallmar, which you can turn in for various nice things. Okay. That's pretty good. You know what the really good thing is? It was centralized. It was in a sensible position. It's along one of the main quest roads. It's around some of the main questing areas. There are people there. You don't have to go out of your way like you did in the Eastern Plaguelands. Let's capture this remote tower. Why, sir? It has no tactical influence on the area. Let's just capture it anyway. No, that's not a good idea. But you've got all this stuff in the middle of Hellfire. It's something of a battleground. It's pretty cool. You move on to Zangarmarsh and you've got, oh yeah, more capturable areas. And this time you can get a graveyard. That's actually a really tangible benefit. You get the 5% damage buff, but you also get a graveyard. And what better thing to give people than something they can genuinely use and will shorten the time that they spend? Corpse running. Great, that's brilliant. That was a really good idea. I was impressed with that. Now, Terakar Forest, you're looking at more tower captures. Now, the thing about Terakar Forest, which is really interesting, is that if you're capturing your towers and you get the buff, you are able to not only get additional experience and damage, but earn spirit shards, which can be handed in for yet more awesome gear. The spirit shard idea was a stroke of genius, in my opinion. It was the perfect synergy of PvE and PvP. Spirit shards, of course, can only be gotten from PvE by going to the Ocean Down instance. If I pronounce that correctly, I will reward myself with cheese. And it's awesome. That's a really, really good idea. I was pleased by that. Very good. Very good indeed. If you want to hybridize and not stigmatize as regards to the segregation of PvE and PvP, then that's the kind of thing you need to do in order to make it worthwhile. I was pleased by the results in Terraca. Now, when we move on to Nagrand, and Hala, in my opinion, was something of a disappointment. It's fun. It's pretty fun to get on a Wyvern and bomb stuff, and drop bombs on people, and say count Wyvern points when someone lands, and kick the living snot out of them and laugh on their corpse. It's fun. I like it. However, it switches hands, and you realise that the rewards available there are not really all that great. We were promised some rather specifically good stuff available if you had Hala. I mean, why not a flight point? Nagrand is a very big place. Why can't I have a flight point there? If I own that, why can't I have a flight point? It'll take me right into the middle of Nagrand. What a brilliant idea. What an incredible smell we've discovered. That's fantastic. Let's do that. But no, that never happened. We've got some limited PvP gear available from PvPing, and of course you need research tokens as well, which means you have to go and grind mobs. Now that is a less, certainly a very, very much a less well-designed element of the PvE PvP synergy. It's like, yeah, let's go and do something fun, like kick the crap out of people in the middle of the zone and fight over a town. That's fun. Now let's go and grind mobs. That's not fun. So you have to combine research tokens and battle tokens. Research tokens can only be gotten from handing in this Oshigan crystal powder, which drops off mobs. So you've got to go grind for it. Not fun. Okay? Not fun at all. And then things kind of peter off. I mean, Blade's Edge, I actually confess I've never bothered to go into. I avoided it completely because I heard some horror stories about the grinding quests there and the huge distance. And with Shadow Moon and Netherstorm, it's like, yeah. Nothing specific going on there. So, is it anything but a metagame? That's the question. And I'm going to come back onto arenas after the break because I think it deserves its own topic. But is it anything other than a metagame? Something to occupy your time? I would have to say that right now the answer is no. I'm sorry to all those PvPers listening. I've PvP'd an awful lot. I love it. It's good fun. But it doesn't have a stability. It doesn't have a permanence within the game. It doesn't have a lasting impact in the same way that PvE progression does. People get hyped up about world firsts in PvP. It's the aim of hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of guilds the world over to attempt to progress as fast as humanly possible. But when someone says to get rank 14 in PvP, only a select number of people on their realm care. Of course, rank 14 doesn't even exist anymore. The question is, and I'll hopefully attempt to answer this question after the break, will the arenas actually change that? Will they give people a reason to get hyped up again and be thrilled when they see a group of people do something that no one else in the world managed to do? Will it happen? Will it become the same that, will it become what PvE has become to World of Warcraft? Not just a sport, but something that, millions of people follow with interest in the way that pushing progress and pushing the envelope is very important to WoW. We shall see, and I'll try and answer that question after the break. Any opinions? Email themurloc@gmail.com. I have some Nubcake news for you now. This is Blue Plz. This is WoW Radio. Enjoy. Nubcake news. Stop that. Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later in the show, we venture into the Botanica for some top gardening tips from the experts and investigate the latest arcane fashion accessory, the image of Archmage Vargoth. But first, making the headlines today, this week's Valentine's celebration, which spread across Azeroth and the Outland, was marred by outbreaks of sporadic violence and a myriad of complaints of stalker-like behaviour, stretching the police forces of the major cities to breaking point. Hospital wards and triage posts were flooded with cases of serious and life-threatening injuries caused by so-called silver-shafted Valentine's arrows impaled in eye sockets, the backs of heads, and various other vital and horrifically painful places. Speaking to the Master of Triage at Hammerfall Outpost in the Arathi Highlands is our on-the-spot reporter. Sir, would you care to comment on the epidemic of sharp, dangerous, potentially lethal, but very, very romantic injuries that have been sweeping our lands in this time of celebration? Ah, yes. You see, as you can see, my surgery is chock full of the wounded. I can barely move for all the patients laid out on the floor. Whoops, I'm sorry, Stonehoof. Don't worry, we can sew that back on. What? Blood? No. Moonberry juice, yes, see? Very tasty. Anyway, what was I saying? We've had casualties flooding in from all across Azeroth. The culprit are these so-called silver-shafted arrows, also known as love or Valentine's arrows. So what's the problem, you may ask? A simple gesture of affection and longing, yes? Hardly. You see, these things have thick wooden shafts about a foot long. The tips are serrated and razor sharp. This one's even been tipped with an armor-piercing corium head. Now, I know the trolls like to throw hunting spears at each other in their mating rituals, but seriously, this is going beyond a joke. I can't keep up with the number of injuries. Oh, no, another one. Matron, get him over here. It has pierced his aorta, you say? Oh, Lord, that must be heartfelt. What do you mean that was uncalled for? Going hand in hand with this plague of injuries comes the allegation of certain strangely garbed winged goblins pursuing both male and female alike wherever they go, showering them with unwanted advances, despite their best efforts to get rid of them. A swift investigation by police revealed that the perpetrator is a Mr. Pedalfeet, who has since been arrested and charged. He was dragged off to the Orgrimmar dungeon screaming, "I just wanted to spread the love!" We spoke to Chief of Police High Overlord Salfang, who stated, "The perpetrator of this heinous crime has been arrested, charged and tortured, not necessarily in that order. Blood Elf males everywhere can go about their daily routines without fear of amorous adventures from this perverted little creatures. We at Orgrimmar Police Department take great pride in protecting our citizens, no matter how metrosexual they may be. For the Horde." So, a double whammy of disillusionment, and with the Burning Legion on our front doorstep, and many of our brave heroes lying on a hospital floor or shut away in their homes, traumatized by winged goblin fiends, will we indeed survive to see another episode? This has been Nubcake News. Good night. You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
All the fun of television without those annoying pictures. From Ratchet to Winter Spring, this is WoW Radio.
Oh yes, the sounds of Motley Crue with Too Young to Fall in Love. And indeed, you are too young to fall in love. You're going to be shot by a corium-headed, armor-piercing arrow in the face. Which is the equivalent of what this show is. This is Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Welcome if you just tuned in. If you've just tuned in, you just missed half the show! Good lord, it's a good job we have archives, eh? WCRadio.com. Click the downloads button, you'll find all of our past shows. You can download all of them if you wish. All of them. Fill your entire iPod with goodness and rot your mind silly with the inane blitherings, endless hours of World of Warcraft. Perpetrated by yours truly and those on the WoW Radio staff. A very scary thought indeed. And again, if you haven't dug us already, head over to our shows page and click the dig button. Register if you wish. It takes under 20 seconds to do. Brilliant. Fantastic. Okay, right. Let's get on with this. I talked before the break about the metagame that is PvP and whether or not it's getting to the stage of actually being as exciting and as meaningful and as permanent as the PvE element, the endgame raiding. Now, we already know that endgame raiding is here to stay. It's going to be here to stay for a very, very long time. No matter what the Doomsayer said, and I will admit, to some degree, I was a Doomsayer as well. And to some degree, I still am, to be honest. And I'll explain why later in the show. it hasn't died off, and it probably never will, because as far as I'm concerned, raiding and instancing was the best, and is the best aspect of World of Warcraft at this point in time, and probably always will be, because that's just what they did right. That's the end of the game is instances, and during the game you should be doing instances as well, because it taps into the very core of an RPG player's dream, if anything, and their very being. The idea of trawling dungeons, killing monsters, and getting loot. Pretty much the essence of any role-playing game, really. So, before the break I said, currently, PvP is not in the position to even attempt to rival that. It's just too much of a mini-game. It's too much of a side project. You used to be able to dedicate your entire life to getting rank 14, so of course you got rank 14, and then, nothing left to do. Rank 14 was not a case of, being a tremendously difficult. It was pretty damn hard. You had to work an awful lot for it. But it's not as if you could say that you had been working up to rank 14 for like 2 years, in the same way that people can say, I've been PvE progressing for 2 years. It just never happened, and rank 14s were not exactly, even on their own server to some degree, celebrities as more and more appeared. So that was a little bit of an issue. However, there is one new development which may propel PvP to the relatively the same level as PvE, and that is, of course, as you should be well aware by now, the Arena. The Arena. So what is the Arena? The Arena is, an arena, not entirely surprisingly. It is a one-shot, one-kill fight. Yep, you don't respawn, you do not pass go, you do not collect $200. Once your team... Machine? What am I about, machine? This is not the Terminator. Once your team dies, that is it. End of Arena. Done. Now, this can last a grand total of 20 seconds if, you really get stomped into the floor, or a good couple of minutes. Now, the team size is available at 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5, so everything is smaller scale than even the smaller scale battleground. It's not even a 10v10 Warsong Gulch. You're looking at 5v5 as a maximum size. And again, once you're done, it's over. Once you're dead, you are out for the count. No resin, because you don't leave combat. No combat resin, because you can't use any cooldown. That is, I believe, above 15 minutes. And all your cooldowns get reset and ready to go before the instance. As I unfortunately discovered when I, in preparation for my instance, set my presence of mind on ready to go to Pom Sheep the Priest in my opposing 2v2 team, and ended up pomming Conjure Water. Golf clap for me. You see, if I brought
the image of Archmage Vargor,
then perhaps I wouldn't have had this problem, but sadly I didn't, and that is my own fault. Definitely my own fault. So, 2v2, 3v3, 5v5. And why? Why would you do this? Now, the ranking system and the rating system is based on a chess-style EPO kind of rating system. Everyone starts at 1,500, yeah? Low is bad. If you are 1, you are the worst PvPer in the world ever. You suck beyond all belief, yeah? If you drop in rating, then that is a bad thing. It's not like standing. Standing was the other way round. This is just, it's a EPO-style rating system. Go and Google it if you don't know what that means. And it goes down, and it goes up. And up is better, more is good. Yeah? Earn points, win prizes. And if you do 10 or more a week, yep, you can gain arena points. And they're calculated at the end of each week, depending on your ratio and your rating and how many games you've played. And you can use those earned points to purchase Gladiator gear. And I will be hitting the Gladiator's War Staff if I get the time, because it is made entirely of win. I would perhaps hit it 2 times. So, we're looking at how permanent this is. What kind of a fixture this is. Now, here's the really interesting thing. Right now, we are in the qualifiers, which is a ladder-style system, in which the top so many teams go on to the regionals, and then the regionals go on to the worldwide finals. And here's the really interesting thing. Apparently, you're going to be able to fight players from the US, and the EU, and Korea, and all that kind of good stuff. Now, if you want to read about the arena, the best place to go is, of course, worldofwarcraft.com. Head over there, check out worldofwarcraft.com, and have a look at the arena tournament qualification post. And there is a tournament FAQ. It's really quite interesting. You can have a look and see what it actually says. Regional qualifiers, and the aim is to, of course, be the best team ever. Yeah? It's really quite interesting. And it says, what happens at the end of the first qualifying round? Now, players have until April the 15th to achieve the top rankings in their battle groups. The top teams from each battle group will be invited to participate in the second qualification round, where they will compete with the top teams from the other battle groups in their region. This is interesting, so it's showing that you can, in fact, compete with other battle groups, which is very, very cool. Definitely impressed by that. And apparently you have... now, here's the interesting thing. They are going to copy your characters onto a public test role. That's how they're going to do it. This is how they're going to get past regionalisation and the battle group hardware restrictions. They're going to copy your character onto a new realm completely in order to compete in this, which is very interesting indeed. And you have 2 weeks to compete for the top 8 spots and advance to the regional tournament, yeah? And what happens after that, exactly? There's going to be a live regional event, and the top teams per region will advance to the global finals, which is going to be very intriguing indeed. You're going to see the Americans versus the US versus the Koreans versus the Chinese. It's going to be fantastic. Or is it? It certainly sounds interesting, I'll give it that. It sounds like a whole lot of fun. What initially disappointed me, though, did seem to me to be a huge, and I mean a huge possibility for play-by-play, for spectating, and getting really fired up over this whole thing. And there is actually no way to spectate at all. You go into the arena, you would hope to, see crowds of people surrounding it, or even just looking through some crazy scry or orb-style thing. But you can't watch things. You can't watch the matches, and that, to me, was really disappointing. Because if you're going to try and elevate PvP to the same level as PvE, you need to generate the same amount of hype surrounding it. Yep. You've got groups like Nihilum, who became worldwide celebrities after not only downing Cthulhu first, but also taking down Kel'Thuzad first. And more recently, a couple of, doing Nightbane and, of course, doing Gruul. And I believe the first boss of Serpent Shrine as well. So yeah, it's interesting, to say the least, as to what can they generate the same amount of hype regarding PvP? It's a good idea. It's a brilliant idea, in fact. I think it's fantastic. As far as, advancing the storyline goes, it's pretty much meaningless, but, well, I'm not a big storyline freak, to be honest. I've never really been into the lore of WoW. I've never thought it was particularly good. As far as this idea goes, the PvP tournament's great. Although it does bring up some interesting issues. In my mind, it also confirms that the way that PvP and class balance was supposed to work was that it's group PvP class balance. The main problem you've then got is that in 2v2s particularly, the class balance becomes really important, and you're not looking at a 5v5 over 10v10 where you can say, you can legitimately say, well, you couldn't beat that class because of team class balance, blah, 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 you should have used this one. Well, in a 2v2, that's not so useful. You're seeing some classes suffering more than others, quite specifically. I mean, for instance, if you go into a battle group without a healer, into an arena without a healer, you're a very silly person. If you go into an arena without the ability to cleanse, double paladin teams, Lapse of Blink and Nightmare, because you can't crowd control either of them. You put Blessing of Freedom on both, and good luck crowd controlling any of them as they kick the living snot out of you, while they, double stun your other guy with Repentance and beat you to death. It's interesting to see. Obviously, certain class combinations are being favoured. Is that acceptable? Is that a bad thing? To some degree, it is a bad thing, because you're looking at a serious issue of class balance. And class balance is a serious issue. There's no two ways about it. Always has been. It's always been a sticking point of the community. People cry about it. People whine about it. People write essays and do complex mathematics to prove their point about it. But the question is, just what is Arena going to do? Is it going to have a very significant effect not only on class balance, but on the way that players view exciting things, progression in World of Warcraft? It's difficult to come to a conclusion, in my opinion, on that particular issue, because we're looking at something completely untested. While I can see that the winner of this tournament is going to perhaps gain some worldwide celebrity. Whether or not they're going to gain the same amount of celebrity as, say, Nihilum or Death and Taxes or Curse or any of your big guilds that have taken down these done these world firsts and all this kind of thing. It's a very, very tough call. I think perhaps that it's been ingrained in people's minds a little bit too long that PvP has been nothing more than a glorified minigame. It's been something to do in your spare time. It's like, I'm bored of PvE, I'm bored of raiding. Let's go do some PvP for a while. Can't get an instance group together? It's alright, we'll just go and do some PvP. It's never been a hugely important thing. Can Blizzard successfully integrate it? Possibly. Is this the best way of doing it? Yeah, I actually think it is. I think this is actually the best thing they could have come up with in order to try and cement the importance of PvP in the minds of the players. Because you've come up with a worldwide competition that you're trying to... Well, everyone wants to compete in it. Loads of people want to compete in it. Predictably, they want to compete in it. I'm competing in it. I've got a 2v2. My ratio right now is 0 wins to 2 losses, because I'm a noob. But I do it for a laugh. You know, it's fun. Everyone wants to compete in it. Everyone wants a shot at stardom. You know, most people won't get it. Because there are just teams which know their stuff as regards to PvP. Just the same as PvE. They know what to do. They have their perfect class balance, they have their gear sorted out, they know what cooldowns they're going to use, they go bang, bang, bang. Systematic destruction of the opposition. It's happened in fixed teams before in Battlegrounds, it'll happen again in arenas, maybe even to a more extreme degree. Because good luck rallying a team around to defend yourself against these guys when it's a one-shot, one-kill situation. You're down, you're out. End of story. It's not like you can res and think, okay, plan B. Too late for a plan B. You don't have time to make a profile. President's daughter's in danger. Stop playing Kingdom Hearts 2 and get PvP. Let's go to the emails to find out other people's opinions on this particular issue. Let's see if we've got any emails on that. If you have anything to say, then themurloc@gmail.com is definitely the place to email. That's themurloc@gmail.com. Now, Waltermin has an interesting view on this one. He says, arenas will actually change the way that WoW is played, and he says, in my opinion, no, they won't. They want to make them the same level as raids. Yep, exactly. Some time ago, going to a raid was better than going for rank 14. It took like 9 months to get rank 14, and also rank 14 was the big thing, but it was replaced by tier 2 on some classes. They're excluding druids, paladins, warriors, and priests, which on raids they had healing, tank, and gear only. Now, in the expansion, you can choose the piece of gear you want. I mean, you want a DPS chest for a warrior, you can get it. By only gathering some things, and you can get it. Arenas won't change that at all, although they may buff PvP gear just a little. Well, yeah, they do buff PvP gear quite a bit, actually, significantly. Have a look at, let's go to Wowhead, the amazing resource of WoW knowledge. Wowhead, go to wowhead.com. Right, let's look for something like, say, the Gladiator staff. Now, this is something that I'm interested in acquiring. Whether or not I will get it is questionable at best, but let's have a look at it anyway. Gladiators, War Staff. Alright, down. No, next page. Next page, curse you. Give me what I want. Right, okay, the Gladiators, War Staff. 21 hit rating, 33 spell crit, 22 resilience, 187 damage, and 48 stamina and 32 intellect. Now let's compare that to Karazhan Loot. The Staff of Infinite Mysteries. At least I think it's the Staff of Infinite Mysteries. Let's have a look. Staff of Infinite Mysteries. 55 stamina, 46 intellect, 159 spell damage, and 18 spell hit rating. Gladiator's War Staff. Equivalent. Arguably better than Karazhan Loot. Interesting, to say the least. We've got someone else who also says that Arena PvP is going to end up encouraging account sharing. And they say, this is Pooza particularly, this sounds like the old High Waller Grand Marshal grind. To become the top ranking ones, you'll have to play Arena 24/7. I would really like to see the online-offline times for winning teams, just to see if they magically manage to be online 22 hours a day. It would be interesting to see what the EPO ranking system actually does for that. It really would. Whether or not that will simply prevent people from going 24/7, we'll have to see. You listen to Blue Plz? Here's some horrific rap in the forums. Enjoy. Shizzle and so forth, it's time for another incredibly ear-shatteringly painful and unwanted rap in the forums. Faux show my nagas. Yo. So, What is Rap in the Forums? Well, Rap in the Forums, we take some of the worst posts possibly imaginable from the general forums and see how they fare in the hip-hop world. Oh, yes. Seriously, they're so incredibly lyrical. I kid you not. Last week, we had a shaman whining about Counterspell. This week, we have another shaman whining about something else. Oh my god. So congratulations to Kazgaroth from the Avatar Vengeance Guild, one out on full on the US side. He's a level 70 shaman, and he is QQing, not pew-pewing. So let's go. Oh, it's a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Nerf Icelance, be realistic, guys. If you honestly think Icelance is not overpowered, then maybe you should look around at the players you consistently slaughter. Because of this BS ability, Icelance is just completely own it. It's like having Frost Shot with no cooldown at 30-yard range, and all you have to do is Frost Nova. Spam Icelance 3 to 5 times, and the target is dead. It's absolute garbage. There is nothing most classes can do against this, especially Shaman. I know. Drop a grounding totem, 1 second, poof, it comes another Icelance. What an effing surprise, half the time. Icelance doesn't even break your friggin' Frost Nova, which really blows. Credit 3 times for 2k, from Eyeless in about 5 seconds. GG Blizz being constantly interrupted and unable to heal. Will's being dealt incredible damage. And Shoebox reply, saying, like having Frost Shot with the cooldown. BOS2, Frost Shot does a nice amount of damage and slows them down. Icelance does only about 250 damage with no a bonus effect at the most, unless there's some extremely good gear I don't know about. And if the mage is lucky enough to keep the target frozen for a while, it can get to a 1-2-5 kill crit. Unless, once again, there's some orange gear the mage is wearing. Unless you didn't even notice that stamina is one of the most important things to have in the group. I can hardly see what's wrong with Icelance. Comes edited by Shoebox. In my BG group, and the biggest noob on the forums today have the same name. Coincidence? Who I think not, the unoriginal gangster. I have an alliance warrior on Kaz, and he's got upon your fast so hard. You mean we finally got an Elito ninja ability like everyone else has had ever since launch? That's from V-Size, the Crusaders of Malago. On Malago, 1v1, Icelance is nuts. In groups it's average. Sarah Moss says 250. Yes, 250. Okay, so previously Sean's owning majors was hilarious. Now we have a defense versus them. It's time to QQ. I cried a shaman to the showdown. A grounding totem and absorb my spell. Then Earthshock and cancel yet another spell gap. And crit for 1.4k to 1.6k and heal all your health back. Instant heal, self-res, double chain lightning, GTFO. Icelance was made for shamans. IMO, so deal with it. Edit 1.4k to 1.6k free BC. Haven't PvP AD much lately to know how much damage it does now on average, so I'm assuming much higher. Post edited by 5T. Man, I'm getting 1.9k crits. Impact blue / mish garbage carrot epics. Post edited by Serpent S. Icelance is the only move that is bad. Affair versus all of the classes right now. Cry more, and even still it's not enough. ... Also, you're very, very lucky if you can get 2 Icelances off on 1 Frost Nova, considering they already nerfed Icelance to making it break early. And another thing I did just here, a shaman complaining about not being able to heal lots. A joke, right? 250. If you're stuck longer than a second in a Frost Nova in arena, you need to quit the game or find ability. What? We are not free easy kills anymore, so it's unbalanced. Noob learn to play. ... I can finally water my plants from the tears of your noob eyes. Cry more, little baby. No, really, Icelance overpowered. Oh no, it's QQ more. Jamin, you can heal. Stop, I cast, take a spell, heal. Did I mention heal? Oh, and if spect, right can kill us in 5 seconds. And oh, did I mention heal? I'm not so sure. Objection! You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WOW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
Primed for action. Torqued to the breaking point. And fueled by 3 gallons of Noggin Fogger Elixir. This is WOW Radio.
Oh, yes. If any of you are still here and listening to the stream, I'll be highly surprised. This is Blue Plz here on WOW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Welcome to the show. If you just tuned in, you've missed most of it. You fail at everything. Fortunately, you can check the archives, wcradio.com. Click the downloads page and you will see all of our lovely, lovely things. If you want to subscribe to our podcast feeds, if you have some kind of podcasting device made out of, I don't know, an elastic band, a small winding crank, and the mechanism out of a cuckoo box. Yes, I did say a cuckoo box. What is a cuckoo box? It's like a cuckoo clock, only without the clock. Therefore, it's just a box with a cuckoo in it. I think storing a cuckoo inside a box is actually relatively cruel. But you're still listening to Blue Plz here on WOW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. I would assume you've not gone anywhere since you're still hearing what I have to say. Now, the contest. You're waiting for your final question. I'm going to give you the final question. Literally, right towards the end of the show, I am going to tell you the answer to this final question. And you should have listened to the archives. If you can't remember what the questions are now, then you fail. You'll have to listen back to the archives to find out. Send all 5 of your completed answers to epicgiveaway@gmail.com, and I'll be announcing the winners on next week's show. The 5th and final question. Where did I take
the image of Archmage Vargoth
on holiday recently? Where did I take the image of Archmage Vargoth on holiday recently? I'm going to tell you this right before the end of the show, so you've got to listen all the way to the end, because I'm that evil. Besides, Octail and Hordax coming on after this. And that's made of awesome. So, one final topic to cover. I shall read out your emails, and then I shall cover my final topic, which is future content. Any whatsoever. I've got a few things about arenas. Mr. Crook, also known as James Warner, he says, arena teams will never win the same amount of fame as the likes of Nihilum. Sure, you can become the best team in the world, but what then? Much like the yo-yo fad you described earlier, you simply sink back into obscurity. Nihilum, on the other hand, will keep progressing, keep being the first until someone else takes over. PvE lasts forever and is the reason why WoW never ends. Arenas and PvP are limited. They're completable. And that's why it will always be the PvE content that makes WoW what it is. I would have to agree with that to some degree, but it's not to say that Blizzard aren't doing the right thing. You've got to bear in mind, you're trying to salvage something which is so far gone, in the sense of being completely meaningless, that they're doing what they can. I feel like taking the right route, to be honest. But however, Joe and Mark actually says something different. He says, you said the PvP was only a minigame. This guy's actually in my guild, so I'm definitely in for it now. I have to disagree. As an original rank 14 priest and an endgame raider too, I have opinions from both sides of the coin on certain realms. PvP is more done than PvE, for example. Vash, a very good PvP realm. Quite a few high-rank pre-mates, quite a few PvP guilds. PvP was done more than PvE on Vash. But then you got servers like Theridon, which is mainly PvE progress, and PvP is, yes, like a minigame. Also, someone said that arenas will be the new High Warlord Grand Marshal grad. Incorrect. And here's some interesting information. I was hoping someone would come up with this, because I haven't... Let me put it this way. Mathematics is not my strong point, so the whole EPO ranking system is really lost on me. Fortunately, this guy knows what he's doing, apparently. And so he says this. Incorrect. It's not based on how much you win, it's based on how much you don't lose. I.e., if you win 10 times a day, every day, and lose 0 times, you'll be above someone that lost quite a few games but won a ton. Blizzard implemented that purely because they did not want another High Warlord GM grind. Ah, interesting. This is, of course, my personal opinion, an assumption on the situation, evidence based on what I've heard from other players. That's from Panacea, one of the founding members of the Blue Plz Guild, on Mazrigo. Interesting view of things. When I would still say that PvP, at least in its point, was a minigame in the sense that the system just wasn't there to support it. The actual complexity and the amount of content in there was just so little that it just doesn't work so well, in my honest opinion. Let's see what else we've got. Now, I cannot pronounce that. Oh, Lalunas. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his real name. It's really quite crazy. I mean, to be fair, it is, in fact, over
9,000!
Now, regarding the arena topic, I think this is something of the best that Blizzard could ever do with PvP, as it is currently in WoW. But, there is always a but, I don't think it will ever be better. I don't think there'll ever be better PvP in this game, because it's too focused on PvE already. And don't misunderstand me, I love the PvE aspect of WoW. It is something of the best I've ever seen. And the PvP is fine too, but I do have to say that PvP will never overcome PvE in World of Warcraft as a main game element. But at the same time, I do have to say that PvP in WoW also owns a little face. It's not realistic or something like that, but the adrenaline kick you get from WoW PvP is far better than you usually get from both console and PC games. And by the way, PC sucks L2 Mac, and please give a shout out to the Norwegian World of Warcraft news site, wow-vendor.blogspot.com. There you go, shout out for you. So, yeah, I would go with him on that. He's kind of sharing my opinion that there is an adrenaline kick coming from PvP, and it is fun, and it is something you can sink time into, but whether or not you can sink enough time into it, I'm not really so sure about that, to be honest. I've also got an interesting comment from Mac Harbour Guy that says the ELO/EPO rating system in arenas is based on who you defeat. If you defeat a team equal to rank in your team, then the rank games are less than defeating a team higher rank. So that's also a very interesting element. Very interesting element indeed. Okay. I'm going to go on to our final topic. I'm going to have to cover it very, very briefly. The way I'm going to be running Blue Plz at this point is I'm going to introduce a topic at the end of this show, and next show I'm going to round it up. And I'm going to follow it up, and so we've got a bit of continuity going from show to show. That's the new, slimmed down, killer, very fit and healthy Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. So, what are we doing? New content. How much new content? How much new content is there going to be? Have we heard anything whatsoever? Now, I went on Blue Tracker, and I searched for a couple of things. I searched for 40-man, 25-man, and Black Temple, and Illidan as well. And I pulled up precisely nothing whatsoever about the Black Temple from Blue Posts. This is recent, using the Blue Tracker at cardplace.com. I went and looked for Blue Posts about Black Temple, and there was nothing about it whatsoever, which is interesting. I also went and looked on worldofwarcraft.com and researched the area where you usually find your upcoming content. Nothing there. It's saying, find out about the Burning Crusade. It hasn't been updated since then, which is kind of concerning to me. I mean, there's not a mass... Let's just put it this way. The expansion was not the huge amount of content that we expected because people cracked through it way too fast. Zones are zones at the end of the day. You can take them or leave them. Quite literally. I decided to leave Blade's Edge completely. I will use it for money later on, probably. But I'm not really interested in the questing there. And I took, some other areas. I pretty much avoided Terraca completely. 2 areas, and I haven't done much of Shadow Moon either. I've only done heavily Nogran, Zangarmarsh, most of Netherstorm, and of course Hellfire. How much content is there, and is there any need to add more? Well, we're already seeing people cracking through. No one's taken on the Eye yet, and that is of course the Kael'thas raid instance. The Black Temple isn't open yet, neither is Zolaman. People are cracking through Heroics, and well, Heroics have never been an excuse for people to go Amagad World first. Gruul's Lair has been cleared already. Serpent Shrine, we've got one boss down in that at this point in time. I think maybe even the second might have gone down, I can't recall. I think it's just the first one at this point in time down by Nihilum. And I know they were struggling just a little bit with it, just because we had some server issues. Serpent Shrine ended up going down a little bit too much. So, how much is there to go after that? Just how hard can Lady Vash be? And how hard, of course, can Kael'thas be? Is it enough to stick people on that content for months and months and months? Is there enough there? What do we expect? Well, we already know that we're going to get Black Temple and we're going to get Zolaman. That's 2 new instances, which we assume are going to be, of course, between 10 and 25 man. I know it was actually stated by a Blue a very long time ago that it might even be a 10-man instance, the Black Temple, which would be intriguing to say the least. I mean, we've seen Karazhan cracked in a relatively small amount of time. It has pretty much had the snot kicked out of it, but then again, we always thought that perhaps Karazhan would end up just being a buffed-up UBRS for level 70s. And to some degree, we were proven correct in that assumption. It's a lot harder. Pugs aren't having much luck in it. They can take down maybe Achiman the Hunter and perhaps the Maiden and a few of the easier bosses, but get to the Curator, get to the Shade of Iran, get to, of course, Prince Malchezaar, and good game. you don't really see pugs heading through that, although they might in the future. You know, remember back in the day that Dracosath was considered to be incredibly difficult, and now he's an absolute joke. That's just the way of things. That's the way things progress. We see people pugging Blackwing Lair. We see people pugging Molten Core, of course, and AQ20, and, of course, Zul'Gurub. Rub. Easy done. What kind of progression can we expect? It does disturb me that there hasn't been a little bit more hype, and that they haven't been reassuring people that the Burning Crusade is not going to burn out really, really quickly. I certainly hope that it does not burn out really, really quickly. I will be very, very annoyed if it does, because there's loads of content that I would like to do. I mean, for me, with my new guild, Blue Plz, we're progressing relatively slowly. We're building an ideal small-scale guild for taking on Karazhan, and then expanding in a Phase 2 recruitment process to the 25-mans. We're building our guild from the ground up for instances. And specifically, raid dungeons. Yeah? And to me, that's cool. To me, that's the way that I want to play the game at this point in time, and that should extend the content for me. But what about the high-end guilds? What about Nihilum? What about Cursed D&T, Risen, and all these other guys? What's going to happen? I mean, are they going to do what I did, and resort to taking your image of Archmage Vargoth on holiday to the top of Oshugan, and looking out at the sunset? I really don't know. Is that what they're going to do? Are they going to take the image of Archmage Vargoth to the top of Oshugan on holiday? Is that will that be all that's left to do in a couple of months? We'll have to see. It does seem to me that Blizzard should now be pushing the idea that there is something coming, and it's big and it's scary. Black Temple is something that people are supposed to be getting really hyped up about. It's the killing of a very, very major element of the Warcraft lore. Exceedingly major. Illidan. A protagonist. A very dangerous character. A very, in some way, charismatic character. We want to see what he can do. We want to see what he's gathered, what he's created, and what new challenge is there for us. It's a major element of the Warcraft progression as regards to the storyline and the lore, and PvE. But there's been very little hype as regards to it. We don't know anything about it. We don't even have banner ads, like those amazing banner ads they did for Naxxramas. The Shadow of the Necropolis. We don't have anything like that. Let's see it. I want some hype. I want to see Blizzard hype this thing to all hell and back. I really, really do. And I'll be continuing on this topic sometime next week. Shout-out time, folks. Email themurloc@gmail.com or PM me on IRC. You have 4 minutes to get your shout-outs into me right now. Right now. Do it. And I've got one special thing to say. A listener has very kindly donated a US Collector's Edition of Burning Crusade, so even the US guys can now get their hands on a Burning Crusade Collector's Edition for our epic giveaway, so an additional prize added in later on. And all 5 answers have now been stated. If you missed it, listen back to the archive, wcradio.com, the downloads button. PM me right now, folks. Right now, indeed. Right, we've got some shout-outs coming up right now. Shout-out to myself, that's Luku, Antithius, grinding up our levels and quests in the Ghostlands on Masrigo EU, level 20, here we go. That's the Blood Elf collection. Indeed, the Blood Elf collection, and of course to Ariana's Alt Guild, who are doing Wailing Caverns right now, hardcore. What else have we got? First off, I'd like to give a shout-out to the whole WoW Radio crew. That's from Rasputin on Dark Sorrow EU. Also, I'd like to give a shout-out to the Dark Sorrow EU IRC crew, and especially to Undead Torrent, lay off the darkness, mate. Quintosh, who actually did in 20 yesterday, in real life, of course, and my favourite troll hunter. Wow, that's the most unpronounceable thing I've ever seen. Alkfenial! P.S. Undead Torrent, you can't save her, she's mine. Oh dear, oh dear. Could I have a shout out to everyone in the Extraordinary Guild on Karazhan EU. You rock. That is from Blazing. Shout out to me, that's nice of you, for Ding70. Woot. And also, yesterday I got my great sword of Horrid Dreams with a imbuff plus 40 spell damage enchantment on it. Hi TB, Snorky Yorkie here. Shout outs to Greythor, Embermoon, Flassier, and the rest of the Artisan Guild on Steamweedle Cartel EU. Good lord, the spam. Let's see what else we got. Shout out to Jack Thompson, who must die. That's from Sniper Crowbar. Along with people who must die is U-Ball. Yes, U-Ball must die in a fire. Shout out to Drea, that power leveling priest, who is very close to 32. I'll get there, TB. A shout out to UTV for saying EverQuest was a phenomenon in its own time. Took me so long to explain that to all the WoW kids at college. Awesome show, dude. Represent the annoying pilot of Maz that you have yet to gank. Like you said you would do many, many years ago. Well, just get in my way and I'll ensure to gank you, and I will spell steal your blessing of protection. A shout out to the Guild Tribe on Sunstrider EU. I love you guys. Shout out to the Titan Guild, headed by Ariana, soon to be feeding a Blue Plz guild near you. We shall see about that. A shout out to Zephyrek, much love from Mittens. Can I give a shout out to my guild, the Blade Order and Daggerspine EU, where our guild's comment was put up on the front page of WoW EU Community Watch. Shout out to GoGo Gadget Jungle PvP team for owning 10 pre-made teams on Earthen Ring EU. A shout out to the Imperial Consortium and Manfurian. Shout out to WoW Radio for creating a great thing perfect. A shout out to the Shinibana Guild on Skull Crusher EC, second birthday today from Rillan. A shout out to Ariana's Alt Guild, that's from Pooza, and a shout out to my mum for giving me a double cheeseburger with ketchup. Also make my mum touch WoW, because then I can get gold for my birthday. That's La Lunaz giving us that one. And let's give a shout out to the Twink Slap Guild on US Dark Iron, that's from, I can't pronounce that, Secret Keeper. Oh, Secret Keeper, yeah. Ha ha ha. Are you still recruiting for our guild, TB? That's from Etta. No, I'm not. We're actually full right now. Excellent. What else have we got? A shout out to Chicago, the worst Supreme Commander player in the world. Check Chicago on the rankings. Yeah, I want to play Supreme Commander, damn it. I've got my copy of my game right here. Shout out to Minuet, who is currently at work grinding her paycheck. One more before I collapse in pain. A shout out to Blizzard, let our arena flags we picked be the arena flags we run around with. That's from Afterburner on Veclanash US. I'm done! Octal Hordak coming up right after this. Thank you for listening. It's good night from me. You've been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, one of World of Warcraft's longest-running podcasts and shows. You can check out all the shows at wcradio.com. Be sure to dig us at dig.com if you like what we're doing, and rate us on iTunes. You can, in fact, download all of our other shows at wcradio.com. Click the downloads button at the top of the screen, and feel free to get involved in our forum community, also available on our website. Thank you for listening.